because our today's intention is to explain you the final APC interview and get ready for you to the interview. Right, now this is the interview structure. You will be having a 60 minutes APC interview. In the first 3 to 4 minutes, chairman will give you it's called a icebreaker. As soon as you enter into the usually what happens is you will be sitting outside. The chairman will come outside and greet you and bring you inside the room where the panel is in, and then he will introduce you to the panel for all the assessors, and then he will ask you to sit down, and and he will make sure that you are comfortable there. He will arrange water and all kind of things for you. So then, and if you need anything, you can ask from the chairman. Usually, when we used to have, this is for when we have physical interviews. Nowadays we have online interviews, and I heard RICS is going to have online interviews from going forward. Yeah. Right. So then what will happen is, in the online interviews, panel chairman will bring you in. Before that, he is already organized with the panel, and they test their audio devices and everything is ready. Then he will bring you in, and then he will ask you whether you are physically fit, everything's done, everything is good. And then he will ask you to show 360-degree view of your surroundings. So if you are having a laptop, you need to be ready with that time. You have to show 360 degrees and the top and the bottom as well. So you need to show the desk through the camera. And then panel chairman will ask you to start the presentation whenever you're ready. Then you start the presentation, and that usually runs for 10 minutes. And usually panel chairman, in the beginning of the interview, he will give you the introduction of the full 60 minutes, what they're going to do. So he will say that during the presentation, at the 9th minute, he will give an indication like raising his pen, so that the candidate can finish within the 10 minutes, because it's important for the time management. If you go beyond 10 minutes, maybe after 20 seconds, panel chairman might stop you because of the time management issues. Yeah. So when you are getting ready for the interview, make sure that you are getting practiced for your presentation to finish within 10 minutes. Yeah. Then there would be another 10 minutes where panel will ask questions on the case study, basically, and the presentation. Usually your presentation is based on the case study. And in the presentation, the panel is looking on your presentation skills, your the body language, your voice projection, your eye contacts, all these kind of things. Can you present a case, or basically a case in front of a client effectively, efficiently? Yeah, that's what panel is checking. Yeah. Usually, when the RICS panels are trained, they have been informed by the RICS trainers that you have to play the role of a client. Yeah, it can be a layman client also, which you don't know many things. So you just pose the question to the candidate and let him answer. So that would be their approach or attitude. They will feel like clients. So you need to give the presentation to the clients now to impress. Yeah. So that's what you need to do. So presentation preparation is very important while you are getting ready for the interviews. And then there would be 10 minutes question, usually 5 minutes from each assessor. Sometimes 1 or 2 questions comes from the panel chairman as well in the beginning. Then panel chairman will ask the assessors to go for the technical competencies and the CPD. So they will usually get around 13 or 14 minutes each, which they will use for all their competencies. So the assessors usually, they will go through each and every competency that they have been allocated by the chairman, and they will put probably like 2 or 3 questions from each competency. And within these 2 or 3 3 questions, they need to assess from your answers whether you are having sufficient competency or not. Yeah. So I will explain you in detail, how you can structure your answers to show them that you are competent, right? And then chairperson will ask his areas of competencies at the last 10 minutes. Usually he might question on the ethics and some mandatory competencies. Then chair will close the interview at the in the final stages, in the last 1 or 2 minutes. Now that time, chairman will give you to modify or add any answers that you have already given. Now throughout this interview, starting from these 10 minutes up to these 10, 25, 35, within these 45 minutes, you might get around 40 to 50 questions. So there can be 1 or 2 questions that you come back. You want to come back. Yeah. So the chairman will explain you what are the questions that you wanted to come back. So you can give answers for those comeback questions during these 1 and 2 minutes. And you can give your final wording to the panel. Now, final wording is very important because that is your final pitch to the panel. So you can say that, a good way of doing that is, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to face this RICS APC panel interview. And if I've been selected as a RICS member, I'll make sure that I uphold the professional standards and I'll perform my services in line with the ethical standards, and I'll promote the profession among other professionals, as well as I'll promote the RICS. And one day I'll sit like you in a panel while conduct CPDs and try to contribute towards the profession. And thank you. So that kind of a final wording would be very good because that would be in the minds of the panel at the end, right? Then the interview will finish. So that would be the 60 minutes. Yeah. Right. So there are some resources which you can go through. I mean, we will send you these slides so you can find these things. Especially the competency guidance is very important. Candidates guide. Then you have quantity 7 and construction pathway guide. I will go through that. Actually, I'll show you quantity 7 construction guide now. Then in MENA, they have some candidate supports. Then some templates are there also in this link you can find. And there's a LinkedIn group. There's a RICS assessment support link. The APC stress, it's very important. Now, RICS process involves a lot of competencies and you have to do a lot of studies. And when you're doing that, there's a stress and you have to manage the stress because RICS APC interview is not like a written exam. It's an oral interview. So you should be in your optimal performance when you be in the interview. So it's very important. Your physical and mental health is maintained. Now, that's why they have given this stress, support. What you need to do is don't worry about the interview too much. You have to study. You need to face that. You have to stage your study. So take some time to study. While you are doing the study, make sure that you do a lot of exercises, a lot of mindfulness activities, and try to be calm as much as possible because that is very important. If you get stressed and if you study and your studies will not impact at all if you are stressed during the interview. So you need to be very calm. So to do that, your mental and physical health, especially physical health, then automatically your mental health also would be improved. You need to put a lot of emphasis on that. Yeah. So that's why they have given these guide, support. Then there are some RICS resources, RICS Academy also there. Yeah, so there are some video interview guidance in these links where you can have have a look. And in this link, last link, in an unfortunate situation that you become a referral or you don't pass in that attempt, then they are giving some guidance on how to get ready again. Yeah. So we will send you these things for you to get ready. Now, presentation, it's very important. Your slides, when you prepare your slides, ideally you can have probably like 10 to 12 slides because you have 10 minutes. You have to cover all these slides within that 10 to 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. And the presentation should look nice. Your layout should look nice. You should not have a lot of wording included there. You can have pictures, you can have graphs, you can have some, beautiful things there, but try to minimize the number of words, because when you put a lot of words, that will not give a good impression to the panel. Yeah, you can use essential wording, but try to minimize them. Yeah? When you present, you can present with your speech, but don't try to put all of them into the presentation slides. Then the timing is very important. You have to try to finish within 10 minutes or maybe another 10 seconds also, all right. But if you can finish exactly 10 minutes, I've seen many candidates doing that. That would give a very good impression. Now, how you can do that? Now you need to practice presentation. I used to practice like 3 to 5 times every day. I'm practicing. Yeah. So when you practice that for like 10-20 days, then that will give a perfect pitch for the interview. Yeah, it will automatically comes from your subconscious mind. Then in order to control the timing, you can use a water glass. Now, if you feel that you are doing it fast, usually during the interview, compared to your practice, you will be a little bit fast. You can use the water glass to take some time. And the good thing in online interview is you can see the time, you can control your time. So if you feel that you are going a little bit fast, you can have a water sip and then control your time, and then try to finish exactly 10 minutes. That will, because that is your homework. Yeah? You have enough time to get ready for that. Then how to break down your time, it's very important. Now for the introduction, you have to always focus on what are the key things that you are going to deliver in this presentation. Don't say that I'm doing this for for the fulfillment of the RICS APC assessment and all in the beginning, because you have limited time. You need to give your message very clearly to them. So you can start from the project introduction. So introduction can be like 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. Then you can have your case or the critical issue for another 1 minute. So now 2.5 gone. Then you can explain your options for another 2.5 minutes. Roughly, I'm giving you as a guidance. Then next 1 or 2 minutes, you can explain the evaluation, which is very important, because evaluation will give them, if you can give like 2 minutes to 3 minutes for the evaluation, that will, because evaluation is the point that you give the panel your technical know-how, technical competency. Yeah. Then you will reach now around 7 minutes. Then you take another 1 minute to 1.5 minutes for the implementation and the outcome. And then the last 1.5 minutes you can use for conclusion, reflective analysis, and the competency gain. Yeah. So that would be the good guidance for time breakdown. You need to make sure that you do that in that proper manner. Yeah. So that it looks good. Yeah. And the body language is very important. Try to use your hands. Yeah. It's very important because you're doing a presentation, and presentation skills are very important. Eye contact. Now in the physical situation, eye contacts are very important. Now here you cannot, eye contact. You can see. What's that called? Virtually, it's not very effective. But try to be, use your eye contact with the camera, and you keep the panel in your hold until the end of the presentation. Voice projection is very important. When to raise your voice and when to, calm it down. It's very important. So use your skills on these and try to give your presentation. How you can do that? Practice. Yes, no other medicine like practice. You have to practice it over and over again, and then get ready for the presentation. It's very important. If you do the presentation well within 10 minutes, usually around 30 to 40% of your interview is done. Yeah, because panel will be impressed. So that's really important. Yeah? Work on the presentation. Then the interview questions. Usually there would be around 40 to or 35 to 50 questions, depending on the interview. And the questions would be, now there are few types of questions. In the core competencies, usually they will try to test your knowledge. And so you can have level 1, 2, 3 questions. In the core competencies, my advice is always, doesn't matter the question is what is the level of the question is, you try to reach level 3. Yeah. For example, if they ask you a question like what is the difference between concrete structure and the steel structure, you can go and explain what are the differences. You can compare them and then say that if I have been asked to select a competency out of, select the best out of them, then I will check what are the project requirements and I will match these characteristics to the project requirements, and accordingly I'll advise the team or the client. So you have now reached level 3. Yeah, if you use advice word, usually you are reaching the level 3. But I mean, not only the word, I mean, you need to develop your answer to that. So try to, when you are getting ready, core competencies, try to reach level 3 always, and the ethical competency, try to reach level 3. Doesn't matter whether it is level 1, 2, 3, try to reach level 3. Then sometimes panel might stop you saying that, you know, fair enough. That is the usual word they will use, fair enough. As soon as they say fair enough, it's professional to stop your answer. But until that, you explain to level 3. Yeah, so that is a very good practice. Right. Now, what assessors expect? Assessors expect you to analyze the answer properly, analyze the question properly. So whenever you are being asked a question, you need to identify the key things they are asking. Now, how you can develop this skill? The best way to develop this skill of answering is doing a lot of mock interviews. No other medicine or no other way you can develop this up to that level. Mock interviews, doing with one of your friends who is doing RICS, or even with wife or husband, would be, I mean, you can ask them to ask questions and you can explain. When you do the mock interviews, automatically you will develop your answering skills, and you will automatically develop how to grab the important points in a question and answer them. So mock interviews would be the best solution for that. Yeah. So assessors expect you to identify the question, identify the points in the question, and then give your answer. When you give your answer, make sure you use your jargon. Yeah. What is jargon? As content surveyors, we use a lot of conditions of contract. For example, if you're familiar with FIDIC 99 or 87, use jargon from FIDIC as much as possible, and from the standard method of measurements. And for example, time for completion. Don't say completion time. You only say time for completion. Time for completion is a defined term in the FIDIC. So likewise, try to use that jargon. Yeah. Method of measurement. GIFA, gross internal flow area. That is a jargon we use as quantity surveys. We don't say built up area. Built up area, there's no definition in our, in our books. We have GIFA or GEA or NIA, net internal area, gross external area. So these type of words you should use. BCIS, yeah, cost analysis template, cost planning, cost estimation, yeah, superficial area method. So those kind of jargon try to use. Now, when you are studying these days, make sure that you use those jargon, and when you use that, the panel will quickly understand what you are saying, and it is you will have a very good conversation because you are speaking the same language. Yeah, so it's important. Now, how to structure your answer? That is very important. Now, WBS or CBS, work breakdown structure and all. Any structure, if you discuss, it has levels, doesn't it? So, for example, a good example would be if the panel asks you, what is procurement means to you? Now, it's a huge question. Yeah, you can explain like 2-3 minutes on that. So how you can start? You start, okay, procurement is how you procure a building or a construction project. It usually has four main features. First one is working arrangement. The second one is how to select the contractor. Third one is contractor payment methods. Likewise, you need to explain that level. Okay, working arrangement, contractor selection, form of contract, contract type. So these are the four types, four features in the procurement system. And then you go to the next level. Under working arrangement, you can mainly identify traditional path, design and build path, management path, and design and manage path. And under the contractor selection, you can select the open tendering, single stage selective, two-stage selective, or negotiation. If you go for the form of contract, there are many form of contracts you can select. If you go for the contract types, you can use lump sum, remeasurement, or cost reimbursement. Then if the panel still waits, you go to the next level. You see, we go by level by level. So the important thing is when you do that, you capture the periphery of the answer or the question. So that's very important. Don't dive into one section suddenly, like, okay, procurement has working arrangement has traditional path has these characteristics. Don't go like that. Always try to cover the first level. Yeah, structure your answers level by level. Yeah. Now, for example, another example would be what are the inclusions of a contract document or tender document? You can say that, okay, tender document has usually few volumes. Volume 1 has condition of contract part 1, part 2, specimen forms. Volume 2 has general and particular specifications. Volume 3 has preambles and the BOQ. Volume 4 has drawings. Volume 5 would have any other documents like geophysical investigation reports, standard operating procedures, those kind of reports. Now that should be the answer. You state that there are 5, 6 or 6 volumes, and then you explain them. And if they still waits, you can go and explain individually. But don't say that, okay, tender document has condition of contract. So condition of contract has appendix to tender. So you're going deep. Before you go in deep, you go shallow first, and then you level by level you go deep. That is what you call structure your answer. You need to understand what panel is asking and try to cover the shallow areas very quickly, because after you do that, the good thing is panel knows that you know the subject area. Okay, if you dive into one, panel can come to a conclusion that you don't know about the other aspects because you didn't mention them. So that's why you need to structure in your answer is very important. Now, how you can develop that? Again, mock interviews. If you do mock interviews, this will develop. Yeah, and thinking pattern. It is important when you're studying that you think how you practice as a quantity survey. I mean, how you should practice as a quantity survey. For example, if you are doing a variation, how to price a variation? That can be a question in the RICS interview. So when you are studying, these kind of questions you might get. So you go through the condition of contract and understand how a variation would be priced. Okay, so that is very important. You you give solutions from your quantity surveying background, from our basics. Basics are important. So thinking pattern always should be, how you need to know the structuring of your answers, as well as it should come from our basics. Yeah, basics comes from our quantity surveying knowledge that we have gathered. Now I'll go through the candidates guide also. In the not candidate guides, quantity surveying and construction pathway guide, where you have a checklist. That checklist gives us what are the things we need to cover in a competency. So after that, when you're going through that checklist, you know what are the things to be covered, and you can easily cover them. And based on that, you can develop your thinking pattern and structure your answers. Yeah, you can practice for each and every checklist item how you are going to give an answer, basically. And the body language is also important. Yeah, you use your hands. It's very important. And during the interview, there can be 1 or 2 questions that you might have to come back. You cannot go straightforward answers for all the questions. You might get 1 or 2 at least. So you use your pen and paper, keep it there, and you jot down quickly. Yeah. If you say come back, you have to come back, because it would be considered unprofessional if you say just come back, and then if you don't know the question at the end, that would be considered as unprofessional, because you said that you are going to come back, but you don't have any system to remember that or recall that. So what you can do is use your pen and paper and jot down in 1 or 2 words what is the question, and at the end, before panel chairman is giving you the question, you can say that, okay, I've been asked this question, but I don't have an answer. You have been asked this one, and this is the answer. Okay, so that would be give a good professional impression. So it's very important. And the body language, okay, your voice projection, your hand movements, that's very important. Okay, during the answering of the interview. Yeah. Now, how to evaluate yourself now and revise. Now we'll go to the quantity 7 and construction pathway guide. So this is the quantity 7 construction pathway guide. We will give you the link to this. So this is a 69-page document. You can read through that, and it gives individually competency wise what is level 1, level 2, level 3 you need to achieve. But the most important part of this one is the checklist. So the study checklist has all the competencies listed, and it explains you what is the level you need to achieve and what are the things you should know within that. For example, accounting principles, you should know these things. Okay. Likewise, business planning, client care, communication, ethics, data management, health and safety, diversity, inclusive environments, commercial management, contract practice, construction technology, design economics, procurement and tendering, project financial controlling, quantity 7 and construction, contract administration, conflict avoidance. Likewise, everything is there. Now it seems it's a very lengthy checklist. Don't worry about it. If you go through the checklist, you will see that a lot of things are common, also repetitive. But the important thing is, when you have a photocopy or printout of this checklist, you can leisurely study now itself and get a good knowledge of each one of them. Yeah. If it is level 1, you just need to achieve level 1 or the knowledge. If it is level 2, you should know how to do that work, practice. If it is level 3, you should be able to develop your level 3 advisory. Now I understand that not all of us having the same level of experience, isn't it? I mean, because we don't have the luxury of doing all these things in our job. We understand that. What you can do is, effective way of overcome that is, you do it virtually. Okay? Now itself. Now we have time, around 1 month, good to get ready. So for example, if you start procurement and tendering, you can read level 1, you understand the level 1 from the checklist, develop your knowledge, and you level 2, you virtually now do that. Okay, I need to do a tender. How do I do that? Okay, so I mean, we are doing everything virtually now, isn't it? So it's easy for you to imagine and do it. So spend some time and you do it. Okay, level 2. Then you can develop, you can discuss with others who are doing the procurement and tendering also, and you can develop level 3 also. How to advise, what is the best practice. Likewise, you develop level 3 as well. So that is the best way you can develop level 2 and level 3 easily if you have not done that particular competency. Yeah. So use that checklist always. Peer review. Speak to the peers. Okay. Like you might be coming from a you are doing some other works, but you have not covered the procurement and tendering in your practice. So you can speak to a person who is doing procurement and tendering and get some idea. Yeah? So that is also another good way of evaluate or revise yourself. So this is how you can evaluate yourself and revise. Okay, you think, okay, can you answer, when you go through the checklist, you can understand, okay, can you answer this, and can you know, do you know this to do in level 3 or level 2? You can evaluate easily. Yeah, then you do the you can study on that and speak to the peers, and then virtually do that as well. Another good way of to evaluate yourself is mock interviews. When you do the mock interviews, you will understand that in certain competencies that you are struggling. Okay, and better you do it now, so you understand those struggling, you can evaluate that, and you can have a plan of attack for those competencies, and get get some good knowledge, experience on the competency. Yeah, and 99% of the candidates will not cover all the competencies in their job, but what they're doing is they develop their skills or competencies to that level by basically virtually they do it, or using mock interviews. When you are using mock interviews, you will be challenged and you will be able to answer them, and you can develop your thinking pattern to do that work. Now, for example, I did my RICS interview in 2012. By that time, I didn't have a lot of experience, but I did the RICS interview, and so we studied really hard during that time, doing a lot of mock interviews. Probably I might have done like 200, 300 interviews, mock interviews, and with my friends. And after I passed interview, I got an opportunity in a client organization where I was exposed to everything. Basically, most of the account design practices were there. But since I have done that previously, it was very easy for me to adopt. Yeah. So personally, I know that from experience, by using mock interviews and speaking to the peers, you can develop level 2 and level 3. Yeah. But you need to put the effort. Yeah. Now, rules of conduct. It's very important. Rules of conduct. Is it only memorizing questions and answers? No, it's not about just answering. It's about you should have a principles or value system within your within your system to do the right thing. Okay. Now I know that you have that system. Okay. But with RICS, you need to go a little bit extra and understand how RICS is giving you the guidance. Okay. And then try to build them into you. And while you're practicing day-to-day basis at the moment also, you think whether you are doing it right or wrong. Okay. Now for ethics, there's a lot of information in the RICS website where you can download. Yeah, there are a lot of help sheets which you can download, and you can read through them. Yeah, and get a good knowledge. Yeah, like complaint handling procedure, client money handling procedure, PI insurance, those kind of things. Okay, so basically you should know what are the 5 global professional ethical standards. Act with integrity, act in a way that promotes trust in the profession, treat others with respect, take responsibility, and always provide high standards of service. So that is 5 global professional ethical standards, and then 5 principles of good governance, like proportionality, accountability, consistency, targeting, and transparency. Then you need to know what are the rules for members and the rules for firms. There are 9 rules for members. There are 15 rules for firms. If you search in the Google, you can definitely find. I believe when you are getting ready for the interview, you have already those things. Then you need to have some help sheets like PI, complaint handling procedure, client money handling procedure, locum agreement, and the CPD, and conflict avoidance help sheets. These are the key things you need to know. So you have to revise them. You need to read through them and get a sense of idea, and that's how you get ready for the ethics, and try to build that knowledge into your body. What they're saying, what is the moral principle. Everything has the moral principle of doing the right thing. Yeah, so try to build that. Yeah, and then there's a RICS ethics decision tree which you can download from this link, where when you have the RICS dilemma situations where you don't know what to do exactly, you can use the ethical decision tree to take the decision. Yeah, so try to get familiarized with that as well. Yeah, so ethics you need to do every day. Try to spend at least half an hour or 1 hour to revise and build your ethics knowledge. It's very important. Yeah, I think there was a question from one of the members before. What kind of ethics questions are they asking? There can be range of ethics questions. One of them is they can try to test your knowledge. They will put a scenario. Second type is scenario and ask you to give a guidance or advice on that. There can be many questions. I can list out like 100 of questions, but we don't have enough time to do that. But if you go through those revisions that I explained you and do mocks interviews, definitely you can answer all those type of questions, different type of questions. Yeah. But the important thing is you have to think whether I'm doing or my answer is the right thing to do. Okay. And my solution always is mock interviews. Do mock interviews as much as possible. You can have panel interviews with probably another RICS panel members or RICS assessors if good. That would be the best. But if not, you can have panel interviews. Even you can have friends. Now I used to do with my friends. We studied together during those days. So that panel was 3 of my friends. So there was 1 chairman, 2 assessors, and then they pose questions. Then I answer them, and then I become an assessor, and they become a candidate. So that is also a very good way of doing it. Or you can have 1-to-1 sessions. 1-to-1 is 1 person is asking questions, you are answering. It's better to have another person who is doing RICS or who is a MRICS member, or even if you don't have someone like that, even another person like your husband or wife or one of your relatives, that's also fine, because important thing is you get ready, you practice how to answer. And then you can do competency wise also. I remember we used to this is with peers, you can discuss with competencies individually and do the discussions. So that is another way of doing the interviews or mock interviews. Yeah. Now, how to prepare for the day? It's very important. Now, before the day, make sure that you leisurely do this revision. Okay, use the checklist, revision it, do mock interviews, prepare the presentation. So do it leisurely, but you have to put some effort. At least 2 hours a day should be done for like around 20 days to get ready. If you can do more, that would be more helpful. But make sure that you do a lot of exercises. You take care of your health because that physical and mental health is very important. So that by the day you will be having your optimum performance. Yeah, you need to be because it's an oral presentation and video. They can see your videos as well. So it's very important you keep your calm and your physical and mental health. You need to get ready with your computer. Make sure that the power connections, everything is there. It's a good computer. Try to have a backup. If something goes wrong, what would be the backup? Yeah. Internet connection, very important. You need to think about the internet connection, and if the internet connection is not so good, you have to sort that out. Yeah. I mean, if the Wi-Fi is not reaching you, you have to get an extender and get ready for that. So test that beforehand. Microsoft, not Office, sorry, this meant to be Microsoft Teams. You should be familiar with Microsoft Teams. How to share your presentation. Yeah. So that kind of simple things you should know. Now these days most of the people are working from the work from home arrangements. So you are familiar with Microsoft Teams. If not, try to get ready with Microsoft Teams. And the surrounding. It's very important that your surrounding is clean because panel can see your surrounding. So try to make it a bit tidy. And the background noise, try to minimize background noise if there are any, yeah, which is good for your for the interview. Lighting, very important. You try to use lighting, good lighting. Yeah. Dress code, it's very important that you use smart or professional dress code for the interview. Yeah. And the body language, I always insist on body language. It's very important that when you are physically and mentally fit and relax, your body language will be good. But that is also one thing you need to practice. Yeah, use your hands, gestures, your face, face expressions, very important. Yeah, how you can develop the mock interviews. Yeah. Now, finally, APC interview, how the panel will take a decision. Now, it's a very good question. Some sometimes, some candidates asking me, okay, out of the 40 questions or 50 questions, how many I should answer to get passed? There's no benchmark like that. The benchmark is, now remember, the assessors will take a holistic view of your training, final assessment submissions, presentation, and interview. They will not take a decision on interview alone. They will take a holistic, holistic view. Poor performance in one area may be balanced out by an excellent performance elsewhere. So if you have a poor performance in one, you can still balance out from the other performance, other areas. That advantage is there. Now RIC is looking you to be not only technical competent. You should be technical competent, but you should be a good ambassador for the profession. Yeah, we should be able to, proudly say that this is a RIC's member. Okay? If you have good ethics, good competent, that's what we are looking for. That's what the RIC is looking for. Be aware of the professional and commercial implication of your work. You need to be aware about the professional and commercial implications of your services, works. That is tested in the interview. Understand clients and employees' objectives. We have to always make sure we understand our employers as well as clients' objectives and fulfill them. That's how our profession will grow. Have up-to-date knowledge of legal and industrial matters. Have the confidence to work unsupervised. Without supervision, you should be able to work. So these are the things that RICS is looking. Okay. So they can test this from the answers that you are giving. Okay. So what is the benchmark? How many questions you need to get correct? There's no such thing. At the end, what will happen is, after the interview, panel will take a quick break, like 1 or 2 minutes. Then the panel chairman will sit with the assessors and they will go through competency by competency. Okay. And competency by competency. And then what they will do is they will agree. Usually chairman would be a moderator, but the assessors will agree whether this candidate has achieved level 3, level 2, level 1 against each competency. And at the end, they will take a holistic approach to pass this candidate or not. So, I mean, when you in the panels, you automatically get that sense, basically, to to evaluate, to assess whether the candidate is good enough to become a RICS member or not. Yeah, so they will get this holistic view. So don't worry that there might be questions that you cannot answer. That's fine, but the important thing is you show them the basics. You understand quantity 7 and construction basics properly. That's very important. Your contractual and commercial knowledge you showcase. Yeah, so that would be the benchmark. The benchmark would be, final benchmark would be, can we put this candidate as a panel, as members of RICS, can we recommend this candidate to another client confidently and say that, okay, this is a competent quantity surveyor, he is a ethically correct quantity surveyor, and you can get quantity surveying services from him. Can we do that? Do we have that confidence to do that? So that comes from the holistic approach. Okay, there can be questions that you give erroneous answers. Some questions you cannot answer. That's fine. But the important thing is you uphold your basics as much as possible. Yeah. I hope I'm clear on that. So after the interview, usually within 7 days, they will give you the result. It can be a pass or referral. Don't worry about, usually after the interview, what you can do is distract yourself, go to a cinema or do some other thing that you enjoy and relax. Yeah, because you have done your best, and let them take the decision. And even if it is a referral, that's fine. Yeah, usually, I have probably counseled more than 400, 500 candidates by now. The best 2 candidates of me referred basically. They didn't pass in the first time, and I like that. Why? The second time they put a lot of effort again. So RICS is not just passed. passing the RICS is not the important thing, because this is a matter of your career. If you can develop very good competency out of this process, that is what important. Yeah, so you need to come to that level and pass the RICS. So even referral, don't worry. Yeah, just ignore that result. You learn the lesson from that and you study. Yeah, because that will benefit you in your career. That is for you. Then you can do appeals if you feel that you have not been given a fair opportunity. But the appeal usually based on process issues. Yeah, like there would be a conflict of interest situation with a panel, or they have not followed the process properly. Those kind of things you can appeal. Then RICs might consider and give you another interview. Okay. Conflict of interest. Usually the panel assessors and the chairmen, they will be given a list of candidates in advance so that they can mark conflict of interest, because if they have any conflict of interest with the candidate, they will not sit for that panel. So RICS, the office, will make sure that those panel members and the candidates will not put together. But if you have a conflict of interest, I mean, when you go as a candidate, you recognize someone who is a friend or who is working alongside with you, you can inform to the chairman that there's a conflict of interest. The chairman will take appropriate action for that. Yeah. So it's important that we try to avoid conflict of interest. Yeah. Usually RICS will make sure that it is not being happen. Yeah. Right. With that, we came to the end of the interview. Yeah. So the coping with the APC stress. This is very important, I think, to discuss. So before the final assessment, take care of your health, exercise, sleep, be mindful, create positive mindset, plan for your preparation, allow plenty of time to study and practice. During final assessment, when you answer it, it's very important, don't rush and answer. Pause a little bit, take a deep breath. That will bring a lot of oxygen to your brain and relax you, and then your response would be good, as well as it will give enough time for you to structure your answer and give. Okay, so you can use that. I used to use a technique like, if they ask the question, what is procurement means to you, for example, that's the question. Well, procurement means to me, so I'm taking that 1 or 2 seconds to organize myself and give the structured answer. So likewise, you can repeat your answer. You can use different techniques to take that 1 or 2 seconds. Even if you take a deep breath, the panel will allow to do that, because they understand you are also under stress in that situation. Use the pen and paper provided as we discussed. Take a sip of water during the interview. After the final assessment, don't do a post-mortem and check what are the questions that you didn't give answers and all. Don't try to do it immediately. Distract yourself, do something you enjoy. Okay, then you try to do a conscious effort to move on. Yeah, in your further day-to-day life. Yeah, so that is from RICS again, the things that you can do to manage the stress within the APC process. Right, with that we came to the end of the presentation. So do you have any questions? I saw there was a question in the chat. Let me go to the chat and what kind of ethics questions? Okay, we discussed that. According to August 2021 APC candidate guide, it is mentioned that there would be questions on CPD. Not only this, throughout the APC process, there can be questions on the CPD. Okay. So that was a norm. We used to ask questions from the CPD because you have attended to the CPD. So we will check from that. What kind of questions are asked on CPD? Now, for example, if you say that I have attended to a interview, I have attended to a CPD on contract practice, we will ask a question, what you learn from there? What kind of knowledge you got from that CPD? Those kind of questions. Yeah. Would they ask questions like who conducted the CPD, the learning outcomes of it? Yeah, they can ask the question because you have already state that you went to a CPD. So they can ask. Usually we will not ask who conducted CPD, but the learning outcomes. Yes, you should know. Okay, for example, you can mention that you attended to a contract administration class. So the question can be, what did you learn? What he mentioned about the variations. So what is your opinion on that? So likewise, the learning outcome from that CPD would be question. Any preferred format for presentation like PPT, Word file? Usually PPT would be better because you can present it nicely, but there's no guidance specifically, but PPT would be better. Presentation should be similar sequence as a case study? Usually yes, because the case study sequence is in such a unique way that you start from the problem and you finish with the solution. So better try to use the same sequence. Even if you want to change the sequence, that's fine, but you should have that flow. Due to pandemic, RICS is allowed additional 6 months for case studies and CPD. In other words, 30 months, yes, and 18 months respectively instead of 24 and 12. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, Mr. Modi. Yeah, they have allowed for that. Any other questions you want to ask? I hope I managed to give you a good understanding on the final interview and how to get ready for that. So I gave, I think, most of the tips, a lot of tips for you to get ready. So, so make sure that you follow those tips. We will share these presentation slides to you soon. Please put that. Put your email address also if you have not already registered, and we'll send it to you. And any questions you can also send it to us, and we will try to answer them. And we, actually, me and few of the recording also we'll try to share. We usually put this into YouTube so that you can access through YouTube as well. We'll send you the link. Yeah, we have a RICS. We have a YouTube channel which I'll post now. There are a lot of videos there, around I think 30 videos on content surveying, and we will send you that link, okay, into this chat or to your emails. It's called UI Learn. Our channel is UI Learn, so you can use that for your studies as well. We will be time to time put a lot of videos there, so if you can, please subscribe. And ACCM, Australian College of Contract Management. So this is our channel, and then we are going to start we are conducting a APC guidance course for RICS as well as AIQS twice a year, and we always plan ahead compared to the RIC session. We try to at least finish our course around 1 month before. So the course includes full competency. We will cover all the 19 competencies through classes. So these classes would be run for 14 weeks every Friday at 1 p.m. from Dubai time through MS Teams, and each session will run for like 3 hours, and we will cover all the 19 competencies. Then there would be a revision session to cover all of them, and then we'll have 3 Q&A sessions, questions and answers. We will be covering more than 1,100 questions within that 10-hour session or 10 to 12-hour session. And usually within these 14 days, we will be covering around 60 hours of CPD. And it's very focused. And we not only RICS, I mean, I firmly believe it exceeds RICS level. We try to use our experience and all our knowledge also and share with you. It would be very good career boost for you. And if you want details on that, you can visit our Facebook page, ACCM, Australian College of Contract Management. we have put there, and we are going to put that flyer also in this chat group, so you can have a look on that. So if you are facing the interview this time, I hope we managed to support you. So good luck, but make sure that you work now itself. Yeah, get ready, have a good physical and mental health, and I'm pretty sure you can easily successfully pass the APC interview. Yeah. So thank you very much. And if you don't have any other question, we can wind up now. Thank you very much.